depression and welcome in this King Air B200. It has been a couple of years since I started to fly in the Arctic or northern Manitoba, Canada, flying charters or medevac. I wanted to do a video on how to operate on gravel runways. It is not because it is difficult, it is because there's a lot of small little things need to be done to avoid damages on the aircraft, people around you, gears. So in Canada we found gravel runways mostly in northern communities where there is no road. Only way to access to the northern communities is through air or by ice road in the winter. While gravel, because they need to use what they can find locally. Gravel is a very good material, very easy and cheap to get. When you compact gravel with different size together, you end up having this surface is hard, almost like concrete. Gravel also has a very good water absorption, so it's going to have less mud, less puddles on a runway or ramp. So the bad side of the gravel is about maintenance. Gravel need a constant maintenance on it. Always need to be replaned, always need to be recompacted. Some airports are good at it and some airports are very bad at it. And you can see when you land at this bad airport, you have more soft spot on the runway. The runway is not regular. It's going to have kind of holes at some place. It's going to be very bumpy either on takeoff or landing, making the operation on a runway uncomfortable for the passengers on the back. The other bad side of the gravel is the damage can be done on the aircraft itself or other aircraft around it if you're not careful how you operate. When you on the gravel, the props picked up all this gravel and throw it away in almost any direction, not only backward. And that is more what company is looking for a pilot who know how to manage this aircraft to avoid as much as possible damages on the aircraft. So when you do your flight planning on the airport map, you will see the type of runway. You can have gravel, clay and gravel, dirt, etc. The reality is for at least the area I'm flying in, it will show gravel for 90% of the places. But for about 30% of this 90%, you will not have the proper type of gravel. If you look at this airport, the type of gravel, it is mixed with clay, is totally different from this airport where you have a fine gravel, almost like sand. Then this place where the gravel are enormous. But all these airports are marked as gravel only. Everywhere you have a clay or dirt, as soon as the ground is a little bit wet, your aircraft will start to sink and you will need an extra power to keep moving. So the knowledge of the area, it is the most valuable information you can have. Keep in mind, in the spring the ground is saturated of water, and it is not rare to see an aircraft stuck during a 180 turn when taxi a little bit too far on the side of the runway. The danger of operating on gravel is the blast from your prop. More the ground is dry, more the blast bring in the air dirt and gravel. Some rule has to be applied mostly if you are flying a turbine engine. When maneuvering on the ground, the way you turn on a ramp can have a big consequence on other aircraft or people. As much as possible, turn away, but it's not always easy to maneuver without blasting someone. So it is very important to use the minimum power to maneuver around. There is no need to taxi fast to be able to do a tight turn. You just need to keep a constant speed, use a little bit differential, but to keep your other prop out of beta to complete your turn. If you have a wet clay, wet dirt, straight 3/4 inch gravel, your aircraft will need more power to move around. And any turn will be difficult without running a higher RPM. This situation is a dangerous one for the aircraft or people behind you. When the engine is running, the prop creates a depression, bring dirt, sand, but also gravel into the prop. And the prop kick whatever is coming in contact toward your aircraft, like the gears, the flaps, even the fuselage. And if the prop are feathered, the stone can be thrown on the side of the aircraft, not only behind. As much as possible, you want to park your aircraft over the pad to protect the props. But most of the pads are located close to the terminal. This area is for aircraft doing a quick turnaround. If you are not doing a quick turnaround, you may end up parking your aircraft over the gravel. In this situation, you may need to sweep the prop, and here is how to do it. So sweeping the props, the idea is we want to remove any gravel around the props. When the prop is spinning, it's creating kind of vortex, sucking everything up, and sometimes hitting the props and being thrown away all over the place. While we want also to sweep a big area, so what I do is I sweep 2 feet in the front, 2 feet on the back, from the center to all the way to the end of the prop, and give an area when the vortex actually is being created, it can be moved around by the wind, and it will protect as much as possible the propeller, but also the rest of the aircraft. The idea of sweeping is we want to do some side to side. For the reason is we don't want to bring any gravel on the back, because when we get off feathered, it's going to blow everything towards the gears, the flaps, and the rest. We also don't want to sweep everything in the front, because we're going to move forward, obviously. The idea is to sweep some from side to side. So there you go, I sweep my props about 2 foot in the front and back, and as you can see, we still see some gravel a little bit around, and mostly on this side we can see some gravel still inside the dirt. So the problem with this broom is a little bit too aggressive, and it tends to remove the dirt around the gravel and popping the gravel out of the ground. So we don't want that. So usually more soft broom are recommended for sweeping the prop. So there is some situation where actually sweeping can make a situation worse. Mostly if you have very thin gravel on the ground and you have a light rain and or dew in the morning, and you have the top layer is wet, and this moisture is acting a little bit like a glue, keeping all the dust on the ground. If you sweep this layer, you're going to reveal another layer dried under, and this layer is going to create dust and loose gravel. So it's all people's discretion about your experience and what you think is right or not right to do. Most procedures, as I said, doesn't matter the situation, you need to sweep your prop, but it's something to keep in mind. In some situations, it might be worth enough to sweep the prop, but these situations are still pretty rare. First, start the engine, the prop feathered. Do not move until all your checklists are performed or will be completed before you line up on a runway. When you're ready to taxi, move the prop levers to full fine and wait for the prop to get out of feather without gaining any power. The aircraft should start to move by itself. If the aircraft is not moving, only then add the appropriate amount of power to get the aircraft in motion. At that point, the taxi should be performed without any stop, from where you left on the ramp to where you are parking your aircraft at your destination, if its destination is of course an airport with gravel.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Lapse are on their way up. Continue down through 70.
Out of reverse. If you fly a turboprop like the King Air, there is 3 actions to take for landing. The first one is to make sure the Icevane are extended. The second is to get the flaps up as soon as you touch down to protect the flaps from any gravel being rejected by the tires. And the last but not least, make sure you're out of reverse before the cloud of dust catch up on you. Keep in mind, as soon as you see the dust coming at you in the corner of your eyes, it is too late. You were already in reverse for too long. For the King Air, 70 knots is a good reference speed to get out of reverse. For the people who do not know what is the Icevane, it is primarily used in the air to prevent, when flying in icing condition, to have ice accumulating on the air intake of the engine. But it is also used to protect the engine against any debris who can be sucked in. To prevent the debris to be sucked in, an internal Icevane is lowered down to push the debris away from the engine air intake and be expulsed by the bypass door. The inconvenience of the Icevane is less air going into the engine, making the ITT to increase and reducing the torque and reducing the overall engine performance. Because the Icevane influences the torque that also affect the oil temperature. If the outside air temperature is too hot, the Icevane has to be closed for takeoff. But because we are on the gravel, we also need to keep the Icevane open to protect the engine. So what to do? I heard 3 different techniques. The first is, during the takeoff roll through 70 knots for the King Air, the pilot closes the Icevane. The idea is good, but the pilot has to switch hand on the control and to keep the power levers unattended. If a rejected takeoff has to be performed, the pilot will not be ready in a critical phase of takeoff. The second is to retract the Icevane just before adding power. It takes about 20 seconds for the Icevane to close. That means to me the engine will not be properly protected after very few seconds, as the Icevane has to be fully open to provide the full protection. Also for the King Air, it takes about 20 seconds to reach 70 knots and 25 seconds to be a rotation speed. The last one is to keep the Icevane extended during takeoff roll and closing it as soon as the pilot reaches V2 or when it is safe to do so. This is the end of this video. Just one last thing is, a lot of airports have only mostly like smaller aircraft like the King Air or Navarros. And if you go to one of these airports with more like a Dash 8 or ATR or bigger, one of the risks is your aircraft, when you're going to park on a ramp, is going to sink into the ground because the place is not used to have bigger aircraft. So if you go to a place you've never been before and you don't really know what kind of traffic this airport receive, it could be a good idea to give a call to the airport to figure out if his risk of sinking can be a problem. That's it for this video. If you have any comments, stuff you want to add, or stuff you disagree with what I said, just leave a comment below, and I would love to know more about other ways to operate on gravel roadways. Thank you and have a good day.